Israel, thanks for joining me today.
No, thank you for inviting me. I appreciate that. You
Yeah,
know,
absolutely. I'm
here
uh,
with
I'm
you.
excited for I'm excited for this quick conversation. So, why don't you just start off having everyone really get to know you and give a little background on who you are and why you got into real estate?
Yes, it's not a problem for that. I'm basically from Mexico, from a tiny island. I don't know if uh, you know Cancun. It's gonna be just this is one island. Cancun is one island, but I used to live in Isla de Mujeres, just 25 minutes by boat. I used to work as a scuba diving instructor and free diving instructor too. And I've been working with the with how you say with the service or the customer service in my entire life. And I came here in 2006 with my ex-wife. yeah, she's from here. And I start working as an interpreter in the beginning, and then I end up being a how you call it insurance agent um, for 3 years, but I didn't like it so much. Uh, it was a lot of struggles with the company that I would used to work for.
Yep.
And then in 2016, I started, getting into the real estate with National Realty Guild.
National. Okay.
Yep.
Awesome. What do you think brought you to real estate from I mean, you mentioned that you had a really good customer service background. I think me and you are similar in that route that I was a before I was a mortgage lender, I was actually an executive chef or a chef in the restaurant business for about 15 years. So that's kind of what correlated for me. Is that kind of similar for you where you were just really good with customer service and you thought that would really kind of meld well with real estate?
Well, it's kind of the same like you. I used to in Mexico, like besides the being a scuba diver or instructor, I used to own a little restaurant, and I was bartender, the waiter, the cook, all those things, and that gave me a different perspective to be, to give service to the communities or the people they I met. And the reason I get into the real estate is because um, basically it's to help people to find the dream homes or to give it, advice, what kind of houses they can, get, um, the programs they are, in the market, the risk or the pros or cons of buying a house, and the things that you have to, take in consideration when you buy a house instead of renting.
For
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Mm.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously there's a lot of differences in there. I mean, we can actually kind of segue from that into kind of what, I wanted to highlight what really makes you different from other realtors. And when I was kind of looking through Facebook and giving a little bit of research on, you and just kind of making sure that I was ready for the podcast, I saw that you're really into or utilize the DSCR loan program to help your buyers. So you're really kind of focused on that investment strategy for your clients, correct?
Correct. Yeah, because most people, and sometimes, when they try to sell the houses, uh, eh, or they try to buy a house or the second home, I'm sorry, the second home and they want to rent the other one. I just try to explain them the risk and like again, the pros and cons of, renting the house, the process that you have to go through to try to, how you call this, how you will say it, to screen the people to, to get a good renter. All the different programs that the city has, how to fill it out like a nice contract, how to make sure that you don't, how you call this, or how you will say it, try to, try to, uh, make sure that you get a nice tenant instead of getting, just rent it just for rent, because most people don't know how to do it. They don't know how to do the background, the credit report, try to connect with the people they work with or the companies they work or the prior renters. And that's why I try to explain them how to do those things in order for them to, to choose the best candidate for their homes. Plus the program's not, and then they kind of start building their portfolio to buy more houses in the future, because DSCR is really specific and and how it works. Like you don't need to have I say income because you don't show your W-2s or your how you call it 1099s. The only thing you have to show is that you have the money in your bank. Depends, what kind of building you want to buy, because DSCR is focused just, like a multifamily up to 4 units. And then you have to figure out which one you're looking for. That's where I come in and I try to explain all the pros and cons. I'm sorry if I repeat all the time those, but it's
Yeah,
the pros
no,
and cons of the this program. Uh, because when you buy through this program, uh, it helps you a lot, and to get the house that you want. It depends how much money you have in your bank, because they request from between the 20 to 25% down payment. And sorry, do you say something?
no, no, no. You're exactly right.
Yeah, and then uh, you know, I lost my track. Sorry
But
for
you're
that.
good. You're talking about how the program there's pros and cons of
Mhm.
buying a rental and all that stuff, but there's certainly pros and cons about using the DSCR loan as well. And you were alluding to probably one of the biggest hurdles or the downsides of a DSCR loan is that the down payment is a lot more than if you were going to buy a primary
Exactly.
residence, a traditional
Yeah, exactly.
mortgage.
Because they ask you between the 20 to 25% down, maybe more, and sometimes depends your
Yeah,
credit score, or the real estate that you have. And I explain that too, that you have to own a house before you are
yeah,
qualified for this program.
yeah,
If you don't have those prerequisites, you cannot go through that program, and you cannot qualify for the program. That is the DSCR.
yeah. Correct.
Plus, the DSCR is based on, like, the process is going to be, the DSCR is based on the uh the rent, how much the house is going to give you, you know um how we would call this one. Normally I know more this in Spanish than English, because
Yeah, no, no. Yeah, you're talking about how much your monthly income is. So for
exactly,
anyone, yeah, so for anyone that's listening that doesn't really know what a DSCR loan or it's called a debt service coverage ratio loan. And one of the benefits to it is that we don't look at your income specifically, we look at the property's income.
exactly.
Um,
Is the income
and
from
how
the
we
property.
Yeah, and how we get that income qualified is through an appraisal. And it's a little different from a normal appraisal because an
Mhm.
appraisal on a DSCR loan is going to have like a rent schedule. And that rent schedule, the appraiser is going to tell us how much that property is going to rent out for monthly. And as long as that rent is equal or close to what that mortgage payment is, you're going to be in business. It actually can be less, even as up to 80% as much as the rent. But the higher, the more rental income you have, the better rate you're going to get.
Exactly.
So, and-
Yeah, exactly. But sometimes, when uh like you make an offer on a house and sometimes the rent is lower, then that's the
yeah,
con.
yep,
Then you have to pay only interest. You
yep,
cannot pay to principals, because for the ratio, you go above the 1.2 ratio.
yep, yep, yep. Yeah, I mean, but like you said, but in most cases, and that's where you come in too. I mean,
Exactly.
you're gonna be able to find that property for the client that's going to work for the DSCR just because of your knowledge and your background and knowing what the properties are going to probably rent for, what the appraiser is going to come back and say. So you're not going to waste a lot of time placing offers and starting the process with a DSCR loan to find out that it doesn't work for that property because you're so knowledgeable, you can kind of figure that out all before you even start the process. So,
Right, because sometimes it's not just to buy any house. It's
yeah.
like I don't know if you're familiar with. You're from here or you're in different state. I'm sorry for that.
I'm in Minnesota. Yep.
Okay, but Columbia Heights. Columbia Heights. has uh, how you say a rule regarding to rent, for houses
Yeah.
to put in the rent, because in I believe it's each block maybe you have one, maximum two for rent from
Yeah.
that area. And sometimes, depends if you're gonna rent it for Airbnb or, like regular
Yeah.
program for renting, like a single family rent for just a
Yeah.
tenant. That's all the things that I have to explain to the clients. This is a risk. And sometimes you will see a house that is really good, but the problem, like Columbia Heights, it has to be, in in a block that is they don't have renters.
Yeah.
That's the things that I'm looking for. It's not just buying, because you can buy the house, but in the moment it's like, okay, now we got this problem. You cannot rent it. You have to leave it. You have to live there. And the problem
Yeah.
is you cannot move from the other house to this house because it's gonna be against the law.
Yeah. Well, and also too, you got like, HOAs and
Hmm.
condo associations and things like that to watch out for that might not, allow renting or like, short-term rentals, all that stuff. So it's, yeah, there's just so much to kind of like you have to watch out for, that you can kind of help either client before. So talking about that a little bit now, let's go into Minnesota. Like, what are you seeing in Minnesota right now with the market? We're going into, right now it's, August, starting to get out of the summer months and starting to kind of get into the fall here in a little bit. What are you seeing now, and what are you thinking that's going to happen in this winter months?
It's kind of, Minnesota's kind of weird in that situation or in that perspective, because last year for me it was fine. In the winter I have more clients than the summer.
Yeah,
But this year I really don't know, because all depends on the interest rates. We have these wars and this increase in gas, and plus the interest rate doesn't go down so much, and so far that I know it went a little bit up, because
yeah,
the Fed says, we keep this rate up at this level, we don't move it down up. But um, this last 2 months it was kind of hard for the sales, the selling part or the sellers market,
yeah,
because it was not too many buyers. And I don't know exactly why I had two houses that I couldn't sell. Um, and now we have to put it out of market and wait a little bit and see how it behaves. Because in the beginning of the spring, it was like crazy, multiple offers. Or sometimes just they went. They were live and more in the MLS, and 2 hours later, they accepted an offer.
yeah,
And then we start getting to June, and it was like boom, stop.
yeah, yeah.
And that's
It was crazy. We were getting into like January, February. I was thinking the tables were turning, rates were starting to drop super quick. We were getting in like into the fives, and I was starting to get a lot of refinances. And all of a sudden, yeah, the war, gas prices, everything just reversed and went back up to like the highest levels they've been all year. I'm like you alluded to too. It's going to be really hard to say what the market's gonna be like in the fall and the winter. But the good thing for buyers, like you alluded to, is the buyers right now have that upper hand. Um,
exactly, they have
it's
the
not
upper
like
hand.
yeah, it's not completely a buyer's market, but I mean it's getting to be a well balanced market where the buyers do have now power to negotiate.
Hmm.
Homes are sitting on the market a little bit longer if that's what you're seeing too.
Exactly, it's kind of like the winter, and sometimes in the winter the houses takes longer to sell,
Yeah.
and then you have the opportunity, to negotiating the closing costs,
Yep.
repairs. Yeah, those things, and that's what we see now too. In the summer, normally it was, like sometimes I compete with 10 multiple offers, and sometimes that's the struggle, and sometimes because we don't know how the market is going to fluctuate, and that's what I'm saying. This coming fall, I don't really know. I don't know what to expect, because I was talking to other realtors like in the north, and they say I have this house for $600,000 and I don't have any interest, not showings, nothing.
Yeah.
because they asked me for the other house that I have in Rasmus. I said, "Do you have any?" I'm like, Just one, and that was it."
Yeah.
But we don't know when it's gonna, change because it's so spontaneous. Like boom, changes everything.
Well, either way, you'll be ready for it, right? So,
Mhm. Correct.
so a little bit, I have a question for, for myself, being a lender and you being a realtor, what's really important for you for that relationship between you, a realtor side and that a lender that you work with, either one that you send referrals to or, on the other side of the transaction where you don't really have a relationship with that lender, but they're doing, the loan for whoever's buying your listing. What's really important to you? Is that communication, availability, programs, rates, like what's important to you?
Yes, exactly. For me, it depends because I have different niche. I have people that have an IT number. But the people doesn't know what it is. IT number is for the person that doesn't have legal status in the United States, and that has the number that that you can do taxes. So you pay your taxes to that number. And there's few lenders that provide that service to that community. And the other one is like a regular work permits, social security numbers, like Visa U or Asylum or those things. And it depends which, because each bank has their own rules and sometimes they don't take a, the work permit if it's a C14 or different, categories. And that's a little bit struggle. For me, it's a little bit the struggle to find um, lenders
Got it.
for that community. But besides that one is um the communication, especially when we have an offer on accepted and the seller's agent is keep asking me questions, how it is that, like an instant, and they already need, I'm sorry, like how is the conditionals from the
Right.
underwriter? Are they going good? This, and then I have to talk to them, and sometimes they explain to me, and sometimes they don't have the time. And I say, okay, can you explain that to the sales agent instead of me? I just send email to the agent. My lender is going to explain to you how far we are on the process. That's more important for me. The
Got it.
communication part.
Got it.
You know,
Yeah. Uh, Yeah. I mean, me too. I mean, it's funny on our side of things. I mean, communication is super important. We're always the one as a lender updating, on the loan process. Cause obviously that's the most important part of when you're buying a home with, anything other than cash is the
Mhm.
financing for the buyer that's buying the home on the listing side and for you as well. Cause I mean, you're protecting your buyers and your client. But for us too, is working with a great agent that has super clear communication with like emails and getting the contract over right away and being very specific on every party in the transaction, laying that out really nicely is really important for us too. And then I reciprocate that back with communication, throughout the
Exactly.
entire process. Yeah.
The other thing is for me, for my experiences, to keep the one thread and email thread, because
Yeah.
sometimes then every time different email, and
Yeah.
it's so hard to track. And sometimes what you say in one and what you say in the other one, and that's another key for me, to
I
work
think
with.
I, I think it's funny you say that. I think probably the most annoying thing for me is when I just get an email and it says like buyer, what it just says like one sentence. I'm like, who is it for? Like, what address does it go to? Like, what's the reason for the email? I always like the reason of the email, the address, and then the client's name. And then I got everything right in that subject. Otherwise, I'm like going and searching and figuring out who the person is. And I just, yeah, it's funny. That's very important because it takes, it's like 3, 4 minutes of your day just to figure out what an email is. That's a lot.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
that. That's what when I'm working with different agents, that's why I ask them just keep the thread, and that way we have better communication. If you want to add somebody like your assistant, the title company, just integrate those people in the thread, because in that way we can go, uh,
Yeah, for sure.
back and we can find what you're looking for. But if you send me a bomb, like the the IT agent sent me one, and then the title company sent me another one, and it's like it's
Yeah,
confusing,
it's way too
but
much.
that's more important.
All right, you mentioned so like we kind of have something in common that you owned a restaurant back in Mexico, all that stuff. So fast forward now in Minnesota, what's your favorite restaurant to go to? Like, where do you like to go eat?
Well, depends. Depends my lady what she wants to eat. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Yeah, true. Yeah.
um. Yeah. If she wants to eat sushi, we like Rocco in St. Louis
Okay.
Park. That's a
Yeah,
really
nice.
nice sushi place. If she likes to, eat steak, we go to the Pillsbury Blue, or how you call it, the one in I forgot the name. It's a Brazilian one and close to Mall
Port.
Americas.
Oh,
I forget the
yeah,
name.
I
It,
forget the name of it. But yeah, I know what you're talking about.
yeah,
One of
I
my
was,
favorite.
yeah, I was
Oh,
confused that one with Fogo de Chao, but that one, and
yeah,
it's
one of
basic.
my favorite places is have you ever been to Porzana?
Which one?
Porzana.
No,
Yeah, take your lady there. She'll love it. It's in Minneapolis, kind of by like Spoon and Stable. Um, but it's really
downtown.
good. Yeah, Porzana. I'll send you in an email. I'll send you
Mm.
after this call or whatever. Remind you. Um, all right. Well, cool. Well, if people want to get in touch with you and kind of reach out, especially about a DSCR loan, or if they're in the Spanish community and want maybe a Spanish speaking realtor that can really help them more effectively, how can they find you?
They can follow me, through my phone. Well, my number is 612-227-3508. Or they can find me through Facebook, and it's Israel Realtor, or my other page, because I use both. Because in my regular page, I have more than 3,000 followers, but in my business page, I have, not too many. I try to, transfer those
Yeah.
ones if possible sometimes.
Well, perfect. And I'll put everything down below in the episode so they can find it easily. But thank you, Israel, for joining me. It was awesome speaking with you today.
No, thank you for inviting me, and I appreciate, that you helping, to the community.
Absolutely. All right. We'll talk soon. Bye bye.
All right, thank you. Have a wonderful